Hi everyone and welcome back. So understanding GraphQL is not very hard. You just need to understand two terms, schema and resolvers. That's it. Okay, I will take the long path to teach you all these things because we are going into the deep. Okay, so GraphQL server. First of all, if we talk about the basic building blocks of a GraphQL server, then what all they are. So we'll talk about types. So you have to define types, you have to define queries, you have to define mutations. All these are actually the primary building blocks of any GraphQL server. Types, and then we have queries, and then we have mutations. Okay, types, you can say, okay, we are creating user as a type, course as a type, product as a type, right? So these are actually the type definitions we are going to add. Queries, like whenever you need to fetch the data, you will actually ask GraphQL server, okay, this is my query, give me the data based on this, like get user by ID, get all users, and give me only these two properties from a particular user field. Using GraphQL queries, you can request what you need, not everything. That is the advantage, because we can ask for whatever we need, nothing more, nothing less, using GraphQL queries. And here, using GraphQL client, we will be sending the query, we will be sending the mutations and subscription. I didn't talk about the subscription, but subscription is something where you can actually monitor the change happening on the particular type. Okay, so we have a queries just to get the data, mutations to update the state, and this whole thing we can actually cover inside two things, schema and resolvers. Okay, if I just increase it, then block which will decide what data need to send back, right? So we have types, we have query, we have mutation. So resolvers, so all the definitions of the queries and mutation will be defined in the resolvers. Resolvers are nothing but you can say as a functions. Okay, I have two queries and two mutations. Then you have to define these queries and mutations in the resolvers. Resolvers will decide what data need to send, what data need to update. So with the help of these types, queries and mutations, what you will do, you will actually construct a schema. So this schema will be passed to the GraphQL server. So there are actually two major blocks, you can say. One is the schema. So all these three combined covers as a schema, considered as a schema. And this is already a name from the name resolver, right? So these are the two major building blocks we have. One is the schema, which is like, okay, a GraphQL schema, which considers the types, user type, course type and all. And then you will do the queries, okay, give me all users, give me all courses, give me all universities, mutations, add user, update course, add new universities, all these will be mutations, right? So the first half of this block is known as a schema, and then second half of this block is a resolver. And when we have both the things, we can actually create a GraphQL server. What the GraphQL server needs is the schema and the resolver. And using this, we will expose the GraphQL queries and mutation for the GraphQL client we have. Okay. Now we'll talk about the GraphQL workshop, and we will start talking about what is GraphQL, right? We are talking about GraphQL query language, right? So whatever we are going to send from this GraphQL client. So we discussed about that we are going to send a query and mutation. Here something like this, right? Inside this query you will be requesting, okay, I need ID, I need name, all these attributes. So these are called GraphQL queries. Similarly, you will be creating the mutations and all, right? So this is nothing but GraphQL query language. It will tell you, this language will tell you how to write a queries, how to write a mutations, how to request a data, how to change the state of a data. Okay, so GraphQL is the query language for your APIs. So this word is really very true. Once you know everything, like how we are defining the types, how we are defining the schema, queries and mutation, we end up doing nothing but we are defining the language for our APIs. Okay, so basic definition of GraphQL. Now this is what we are actually doing, right? These are the resources. We are actually getting these resources from the server side, right? So from different clients we are sending a query. GraphQL server is there. It will be actually can fetch the data from anywhere. Either it can be an HTTP call, database, REST APIs, from the file, from anywhere. I mean, this is what Node.js do, right? It's like a Node.js code below to this GraphQL server, and using Node.js you can talk to external API, can talk to the database, can talk to some file system, the cloud server, or anything, right? So this is what your GraphQL server is doing. So you will send a request and you will get the response back, right? But how we are getting the data with the REST? Now here we will identify also the again difference. Here I make the call, then I again make the another call, then based on that I'm making another call just to show the data, right? So I end up making like 4 different calls, and these call can be nested. Like from one call I'm getting the ID and I'm just using that ID to call the another request, right? Similarly we are making this is your actually mobile client. Okay, it is now still loading, right? Because we will keep getting this data. And what we are doing is we are getting the 4 different JSON objects from 4 different clients, right? So it's like additional overhead and not good for our mobile client, because we are actually dependent on the 4 network calls. So how we do this with the GraphQL? So this is called my query. You see this left hand side, this is my query which I will send in the HTTP post /GraphQL resource, and the endpoint will be the same /GraphQL, nothing else, because whatever you are requesting is inside a HTTP body. In the HTTP REST, always the GraphQL tells you everything, but here GraphQL, here the endpoint will be /GraphQL. In the body you will specify the query and mutations. Okay, so now you just specify, okay, I need a lift which is name panorama and just give me these fields only. So I'm requesting only these status fields, and trails is a nested object. I'm just requesting this much data, nothing more, nothing less, and I will get the same set of data. So no additional data, no round trip calls to the server. All these things are not happening with this, right? So this is the advantage of using GraphQL, which will just identify, like we are just getting a single JSON object, our mobile client is happy, right? So we are making like how we change the data with the REST using HTTP post, delete, patch, right? We send the headers, the body, and the HTTP methods. How we change the data using GraphQL? We are actually making the mutations. Queries are same as HTTP get, mutations are same as HTTP put, HTTP delete, HTTP patch, because we are updating the state here. So we are actually going to do the GraphQL mutations, and it will actually update the state and it will give us back. Okay, so this is pretty much we have for this. Instead of GraphQL queries, you will start doing the mutations, queries response, and you can call different functions. Okay, so that is all about in this video. Next video we will take one more slide, and after this we can get started how to create a basic GraphQL server. Understanding is more. You can actually look at the code and you will understand everything very easily. What I need is schema, which contains type, query, mutation, and resolvers. So I need, once I have these both the things, I can just create the instance of GraphQL server by adding the library and just starting the HTTP server. That's it.